Oscar Guy here. We are doing something a little bit different today. I am going to be doing a top 10 list of sorts and some honorable mentions of my favorite performances in 2021 films. Now, for the 2022 season, in the midst of my watching all of these films and everything, for this year's season, I kind of want to pad some space that some extra space and extra time that I have in talking about some other topics, such as my favorite films of last year in 2021, my favorite performances, my favorite scenes, and everything like that. And you know what? I might as well just do some videos on it, just to put some content out for y'all. So, Oscar Guy, favorite performances of 2021 films. And I'm going to start with a pretty long list of honorable mentions here, and I have my top 10. So, without further ado, I'm just going to start right at the top. So, the first one I want to talk about is Park Yu Rim from Drive My Car, and she is the actress who portrays this mute actress that is kind of hired, or she auditions for this play that the main character of Drive My Car is putting on as the director, and he auditions a bunch of actors, and it's a multilingual production of Uncle Vanya. This woman is mute. She doesn't speak. She's not deaf, but she just doesn't talk. Needless to say, she kind of stands out in the film, and she's magnificent. She's in the final scene, and she does an incredible job without saying a word, and she, beautifully just performs in Korean Sign Language, and that's it. And her performance kind of blew me away. So, one of the best performances of that film. Next up is Mike Feist from West Side Story. West Side Story is amazing. I loved Steven Spielberg's adaptation. Mike Feist plays Riff, the leader of the Jets. He is great. Just something about he has a very classic movie star quality to him. The way he looks and the way he kind of, acts and everything. He's very, very good in this movie. Probably one of the standout performances, other than, I liked, say what you want about Ansel Elgort. I think he was great in the movie. Rachel Zegler, of course, I think was great. Ariana DeBose, of course. But he is definitely one of the top performers in that film. He's great. I don't really know what else to say. He's just, he has this energy and this demeanor to him that's just very magnetic. So he's great. Moving on from there, Harriet Sansom Harris from Licorice Pizza. Now, I don't think a lot of people are talking about or have talked about this performance. She is a one-scener. She's in only one scene in this film. She has even less screen time than Bradley Cooper. It's like maybe 4 or 5 minutes of screen time. But she is incredible. She plays the talent agent, Gary's talent agent, and he tries to get Alana into acting. So he takes him to his talent agent, who is played by Harriet Sansom Harris, and then she kind of does this interview between Alana and her, and Cooper just tells her to say yes to every question she asks. So it's like, it's a very funny scene. Harriet Sansom Harris has this like intensity about her, this very comedic intensity, and her face acting is not like anything I've ever seen. Like the way she acts with her face is almost like too over the top, but it worked somehow. It's crazy. It's so funny. It's like one of the funniest scenes in the movie. And that performance really stuck with me. And she's also in PTA's other film, Phantom Thread. I don't know what her background is, but she's amazing. Next up is Olivia Colman, not from The Lost Daughter. We will get to her soon, but from Mitchell's versus the Machines. She has a voice role in this animated film, and she plays the sentient AI antagonist in this film. I forget what the name of the AI is. As soon as I figured out it was Olivia Colman, I was like, this is incredible, and she does some great voice work in this film, and it's definitely one of my favorite films of the year. Mitchell's. She's great. I don't really know what else to say, but she is fantastic. Next up, we have Kirsten Dunst, Jesse Plemons, and Cody Smith-McPhee from Tower of the Dog. Wonderful ensemble in that film. Kirsten Dunst gives probably one of her best performances. She plays, the mother of this very strange, effeminate young man. And she kind of is a single mother. She meets Jesse Plemons' character, and then they get married. And then Benedict Cumberbatch, who is Jesse Plemons' brother, comes into the family, and he brings a lot of tension to this family, to say the very least. She tries to kind of overcome this presence of this really deranged person, and she kind of becomes psychologically tortured in a way. She's very gaslit by this new person in her life. Her husband's, I guess it would be her brother-in-law. She becomes an alcoholic, and she is just kind of like delirious by near the end of the film, and she's just wonderful. She does a very good performance, and Jesse Plemons plays definitely a more understated character. He is also great. And then, of course, Cody Smith-McPhee, probably the most complex character and performance in the film. Extremely calculated. I mean, on first viewing, you're like, okay, he's just kind of like just being very effeminate and timid and everything, but smarter than you may think. And then it kind of like grows on you a little bit. And the depth of his performance is actually a lot larger and deeper than you may think. He deserved every nomination that he got, for sure. They're all great in Power of the Dog. Moving on from there is Renate Reinsve from The Worst Person in the World, who won the Cannes Best Actress Award. Much deserved. She is fantastic in this movie. She kind of plays this late 20s, early 30s person who kind of doesn't know what to do with her life and makes very questionable decisions, and just kind of, she goes through some shit regarding relationships and what she wants to do with her life and everything like that, and she plays that character very well. So she's great. Next up is Ann Dowd from Mass. Probably the most emotional performance of that year, possibly. She is just, especially in the final scene, she is just incredible. In this movie, the whole cast in that movie is just amazing, and we will get to Mass later in this video, but Ann Dowd is pretty amazing in that movie. Next up is Woody Norman from Come On, Come On. Child actor, British, plays an American kid, can't tell. He's incredible. This kid is insane in this movie. He goes toe to toe with Joaquin Phoenix. He's at his level. I'm not sure how old this kid is. Probably 11 or 12 or something like that. He's amazing. Always like a great, fantastic child acting performance. And he was probably the best of that year. I know the kid from Belfast. I forget his name. But he got most of the attention. He won the Critics' Choice Award. Should have gone to Woody Norman. But that's just me. Anyway. Next up is both Olivia Colman and Jessie Buckley from The Lost Daughter. And I did like Dakota Johnson as well. Olivia Colman's awesome in this movie. And in anything that she does, she is really the new Meryl Streep, I guess. She just, every performance she gives, she just knocks it clean out of the park. And she plays a very complex kind of motherly character in this film who kind of neglects her kids early on in life, and then kind of has, kind of circles back on some of that past and those demons and everything like that when she comes across Dakota Johnson's character. She kind of sees parallels. She kind of sees herself in Dakota Johnson's character through this, mother-daughter relationship that she's observing. And then Jessie Buckley, of course, plays the younger version of Olivia Colman's character, who is great. Wonderful. The surprise Oscar nomination was incredible for her. So next up is Nicolas Cage in Pig. Really liked Pig. Really liked Pig. Pig was one of those movies where I when the credits were rolling, I was just sitting there watching the credits, just contemplating my life. It's just kind of one of those pondering endings that kind of ends out of nowhere, and you're like, and you have to soak it all in. Love that kind of stuff. Famous for his bombastic performances. Plays a very understated and very nuanced character in this film, and it's definitely one of his best. He plays this, he has a pig who does truffle farming, I guess, and he uses the pig to search for truffles and he's a former chef and everything like that, so his pig gets stolen, and then he goes into, I guess it's Portland, Oregon, and he goes back into the chef, exquisite food world, and he tries to get his pig back, basically. Don't want to say anything too much, but yeah, he's awesome in this movie for sure. I would have liked to see an Oscar nomination. It didn't happen, but he did get some recognition. Next up is 3 performances from King Richard. Will Smith, his Oscar-winning performance, controversial as it was, he was very good in King Richard. I think he was Oscar worthy. Could they have gone with someone else? I would have been fine with that. Did Will Smith have to sweep though? He got the Oscar. He got everything. He swept. Oscar, BAFTA, SAG, Critics' Choice. He got everything. Golden Globe, I think, too. I mean, he's great, but give one to someone. Give one to Andrew Garfield. Give one to Benedict Cumberbatch. Give one to Denzel. Come on. I mean, I don't know. He's great, but he shouldn't have swept. I think they should have given the love to some of the other nominees, especially after the slap incident. But that aside, doesn't really have to do with anything, really, in the grand scheme of things. But he is unquestionably great in King Richard. Other than that, I have Anjanou Ellis listed as well, who was nominated for an Oscar. She is awesome. Has a couple of very, very good scenes, especially the one when she's in the kitchen making peanut butter sandwiches for the kids, and she gets into this bickering with Will Smith's character, and she is just she plays a mother who just does everything she can to kind of veer Richard Williams into normalcy, I guess, because he was a very eccentric person and he caused a lot of discourse in his family, and they ended up getting divorced, I think. So she plays this wife who just tries to make everyone happy, and she's an excellent mother. She does just as much training with the Williams sisters as Richard Williams did, arguably. I mean, she was right there, and on top of caring for this family, she was really a force in that family, and Anjanou Ellis is a force in this movie. She's great. The third performance I have listed is John Bernthal, who plays one of the tennis coaches. The Williams sisters goes to this tennis coaching camp thing in Florida, and he is the head coach of that camp, and he plays a really kind of goofy 90s ass tennis coach guy with this thick mustache and this weird haircut. And it's a very entertaining performance, very cartoonish, very, very colorful performance. I think he did a great job. I mean, compare this performance to his performance in Wolf of Wall Street, and you'll be like, okay, this guy's pretty versatile. This guy can do some shit. Moving on from King Richard, I have Katrina Balfe from Belfast, who was unceremoniously and unfortunately snubbed from the Academy Awards. They nominated Judi Dench for whatever reason. Katrina Balfe does way more in Belfast. Sure, she's no Judi Dench. The Academy loves Judi Dench. They gave her an Oscar for Shakespeare in Love, which was like, what, a 7-minute performance? They love them some Judi Dench. She's fine in Belfast. She doesn't do a lot. Katrina Balfe has the crying. She has these really powerful scenes. She's the mother of this family, and she goes through some shit. She goes through, her husband wants to leave Belfast. She wants to stay, or is it the other way around? I don't remember. She's great in this movie. She's awesome. Kind of a no-name, I guess, for American audiences, but I think she should have been nominated. And she was nominated everywhere else, but she is definitely the standout performance of that film. That's even including J.D. Dornans, Kieran Hines, and everybody else. She's awesome in that movie. Moving on. Ruth Negga in Passing. She was snubbed as well. I think she was nominated for a SAG or a Globe or something like that. She was definitely the standout performance. Tessa Thompson was also great in the lead role, but Ruth was great in that movie. She had a very shining kind of quality to her character, for sure. She's great in Passing. Next up, Denzel Washington, The Tragedy of Macbeth. I'm not a Shakespeare guy whatsoever. I had subtitles on, and I still wasn't really sure what was going on. But Denzel is unquestionably incredible in this movie. In a parallel universe, I would have liked, after the Will Smith slap incident, I would have. If they had revoked Will Smith's Oscar and then given it to someone else, I really would have loved to give it to Denzel. Because of the narrative, because he's an Academy favorite, because, Denzel kind of coached Will Smith after the Oscars incident and kind of talked to him and everything. That would have been kind of cool. Anyway. That has nothing to do with the performance itself, but he's fantastic in this movie. It just goes to show you how versatile Denzel really is. He's amazing. Next up, 2 performances from Coda, Troy Kotsur and Emilia Jones. Troy Kotsur ended up pretty much sweeping the supporting actor race of last year. Cody Smith-McPhee did win the Golden Globe. But as soon as the SAG Awards happened, that's when Kotsur started sweeping. He got SAG, he got Critics' Choice, BAFTA, and finally the Oscar, along with the SAG Ensemble. Second deaf actor to ever win an Oscar after Marlee Matlin, who was also in the movie with him. Great narrative there. He's great. He's great in this movie. The scene on the back of the truck, and Emilia Jones is trying to sing to him, and he's trying to feel the vibrations of her singing. Very touching moment. The audition at the end of the movie, really touching moment. It's just a very heartwarming performance. He's the standout for sure. And Emilia Jones, the lead performance in Coda, I don't think she gets enough credit. She plays the child of the deaf adults. She can do sign language, but she also speaks. She's really great in Coda. I'm not a huge fan of the movie. I'm glad it won Best Picture. I'm happy for it. It's fine. It's an alright movie. It's a little corny and cheesy. It's kind of has these tropes that I'm not really a fan of. But it is a cute story, and I'm glad that it got the recognition that it deserved. I do understand that the Academy kind of gravitates towards some of these other more lighthearted, warm, fuzzy kind of movies, other than Power of the Dog. That was the front runner for most of the season last year, which is a very cold and challenging film that you could really only grasp its weight after 2 viewings, and it ended up only winning Best Director, which is like whatever. Okay, but I'm happy for Coda and its legacy of last year's award season. But yeah, Troy Kotsur, Amelia Jones, they're great. So next up is The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Jessica Chastain, and Andrew Garfield. Chastain, of course, went on to sweep the Best Actress race last year, deservedly so. I mean, she was pretty great in The Eyes of Tammy Faye. I get why she she got so much love for this performance. It's definitely the best of her career. Very Beatty. I will say it's an incredibly Beatty performance, but it works. It works. It worked for a lot of people. I mean, it didn't 100% work for me, but it did work to some extent. I think she's great. I understand. I would have given it to someone else, and we'll get to that later, but, she's great. And Andrew Garfield, dude. My man can act, dude. My man's great in The Eyes of Tammy Faye. He plays the husband of Tammy Faye, who is this other, like, evangelical preacher guy. He has some pretty standout scenes in this film, for sure. And if it wasn't for Tick Tick Boom, I think he would have gotten a little bit more recognition for this performance. But yeah, he's great too. Don't forget about him. Next up is Leonardo DiCaprio in Don't Look Up. I wasn't a huge fan of Don't Look Up. Didn't love it. A lot of issues with that film. It had potential. If it was written a little bit better and edited a little bit better and portrayed in a different way, it probably would have been a lot better. But just the way, it didn't really work for me. However, I think Leonardo DiCaprio is great in the movie, especially in one particular scene. There's one scene where he kind of has this meltdown that is like almost on the level of like Peter Finch in Network. Like it's easily the best scene in the movie. And that scene alone is like, oh my God, Leonardo DiCaprio he's one of the greats, man. So I had to put him in honorable mentions. Even though I wasn't a fan of the movie, his performance left an impact for sure. So we've gotten to our final honorable mention. It's been a long list. The final one that I want to say is Javier Bardem in Being the Ricardos. Again, not a fan of Being the Ricardos. Not really a big fan of it. I did like it a little bit better than Don't Look Up, but because Sorkin, man. I mean, love or hate Sorkin, his dialogue can be a little much sometimes, and this film is no exception for sure. And it's like, this movie is like, Being the Ricardos is like, sure, it's well made, sure, it's well acted, but who actually like cares, who actually cares about this, but whatever. But, Javier Bardem as Desi, not a bad performance. His performance actually kind of worked for me. I was very genuinely surprised. So I really wasn't too upset at his Oscar nomination. I knew a lot of people were like, why was he nominated and not Peter Dinklage? I'm sure Peter Dinklage was great in Cyrano. Didn't see Cyrano. But I digress. Javier's great. I think he was pretty good. I liked his performance better than Nicole Kidman's performance. Certainly better than J.K. Simmons' performance. He just has some kind of quality to him that's just magnetic. He completely envelops any character that he plays. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions. I know it was a lot. So let's finally get into my top 10 performances of 2021. Without further ado, here's number 10. Number 10 is Ariana DeBose from West Side Story. Without question, one of the best performances of the year. She completely swept the awards season. The narrative was perfect because, Rita Moreno, who played the same character, also won an Oscar back in 61, 62, whenever that movie came out. She brought her own kind of take to the character. At the same time, paying homage to the same character. She was just the charisma just came through the screen. She was just ferocious, and she sung so well. She danced really well. She acted incredibly well. She just had this presence on screen that was just unmatched in that movie. And it was hers. That Oscar was hers. And she's probably arguably the best part of West Side Story, which West Side Story, I really love it. Some people aren't crazy about it. I really, really liked it. So that's saying a lot. There's a lot of great things to say about West Side Story in my eyes. And Ariana was definitely one of the top reasons. Number 9, I have Kathryn Hunter from The Tragedy of Macbeth. Didn't really know anything about this actress before watching this movie. I just kind of knew that she was kind of a Shakespeare veteran, and she's a very physical actress. And this is no exception. I mean, she plays, I think, the three witches and also like an old man type character in this movie. And she just completely steals any scene that she's in. I mean, she has very little screen time, maybe 10 minutes of total screen time. Between 10 and 15 minutes probably. Yeah, just the physicality of her performance is pretty, like, it's like wicked. It's whack. It's crazy. I've never really seen anything like it. Definitely a very underrated performance of the year, and definitely one of my favorites. One of my favorite parts of that film too. Number 8 for me is Alana Haim in Licorice Pizza. Great movie, great performance, great first performance. PTA has done a lot of music videos for Haim, and he wanted to have Alana in his next film, which ended up happening, of course. And she is fantastic, and she kind of, she's very humble about it, but she's the best part of Licorice Pizza for sure. One of the best parts. She's great. Wide range of emotions. The scene where she reverses through the Hollywood Hills, the driving sequence is amazing. She apparently did all of that herself with no stunt coordinators or anything. She just did it, and she just goes for it. She goes for it, and she really knocked it out of the park. She really nailed it. Next up, I have Richard Jenkins from The Humans. A lot of people are divided on The Humans. I, for one, am on the side of people that think it's great. I absolutely loved The Humans. Definitely one of my favorite movies of the year. Richard Jenkins is great. He's amazing in this movie. He kind of plays this father who is kind of going through some shit professionally, and he has this crippling anxiety that's kind of inside of him throughout the entire movie. He's anxious about his professional life and his marriage and his daughter, living in New York City in this shitty apartment. All of these combined elements that really like gets into his psyche throughout the movie, and it comes to a head in the final scene, which is just unbelievable. And he's fantastic. He's fantastic. I would have really liked him to be recognized for his performance, but The Humans just didn't catch on. They didn't really campaign it. Wasn't really nominated anywhere in the late season, so it's unfortunate, but he's great, and that movie is great, and all of the other performances are great as well. He's for sure the standout in my opinion. Number 6, Hidetoshi Nishijima from Drive My Car. The lead performance in Drive My Car. He plays Yusuke Kufuku, I think his name is. He's a theater director, where his wife / co, I guess she wrote a lot for his plays and stuff like that. They collaborated artistically. His wife passes away suddenly, and he has trouble grieving and processing her sudden death after a few years, and he goes to direct a play in Hiroshima, and he gets assigned a driver that drives his car, or really it was his late wife's car, and he kind of eventually warms up to this driver, and they go through this emotional, I guess, journey. Him and the driver go through this, grieving process. I don't want to give anything else away. It's an amazing movie, and Hidetoshi is amazing, especially in the final scenes. He's great, but very subtle, very subdued. A lot of depth in his performance. A lot of face acting, a lot of body language. That is just chef's kiss. He's great. Wonderful performance. Number 5, Bradley Cooper in Licorice Pizza. Yes, his 8-minute performance in Licorice Pizza. Absolutely scene-stealing shit. Absolutely scene-stealing. I mean, amazing. Just such an over-the-top personality that he portrays. Based on a real guy. I think his name was John Peters. Producer, was married to Barbara Streisand, of course. Streisand, sorry. Just completely like off the wall, off the rails, unabashed, just crazy dude. Coked out or something. He's got to be on something, right? Just an incredible presence on screen with Cooper Hoffman and Alana Haim, and every second he's on screen, I just had a grin from ear to ear, dude. And I wish he was in the movie a little bit more, but he served his purpose, and he was great. Definitely one of the best parts of the film. And I'm glad he got nominated for the SAG, dude. He was probably, he may have been nominated for other things, but I know that he was nominated for a SAG, and I would have liked to see that surprise Oscar nomination, but it was a little bit of a long shot. One of the great short screen time performances in recent memory, in my opinion. Number 4, we have Martha Plimpton in Mass. I already talked about Ann Dowd in my honorable mentions list. I have to give a shout out to Reed Birney and what's the other guy's name? Oh no, I forgot his name though. Jason Isaacs. Sorry. I gotta give a shout out to those guys who are also incredible. But Martha Plimpton was my favorite performance in that movie. Arguably the lead. It's kind of sort of told from her perspective a little bit. As far as like the overarching kind of point of view, I guess if there's one lead in the film, it would definitely be her. She has some very pivotal moments in the film. Either even before like the whole like conversation discussion scene, I guess, which takes up most of the movie, and during and after. She's a big part of this movie. She had big shoes to fill, and she has a lot of emotional stuff that she has to go through. She plays the mother of the child who got killed. Heavy stuff. There's a scene in this movie that I've cried at a handful of movies in my life, but this is the one that I have like the only movie that I have like ugly cried to. It's so incredibly heartbreaking and just crippling, but it's a movie that needed to be made. It's necessary viewing for sure, and it kind of ends on a semi warm and optimistic light and tone. I definitely recommend it. It's definitely one of the more undersung films of that year, and it's a shame that it was not recognized in the late award season for the most part. We've entered the top 3, ladies and gentlemen. Number 3, we have Andrew Garfield in Tick, Tick, Boom. This guy is a powerhouse, dude. I mean, this guy can do anything. The range that this guy has is insane. And he learned how to sing for this movie, and he can sing. He can really sing very well. He plays Jonathan Larson. He plays Jonathan Larson, who famously wrote Rent, tragically died. So a huge figure in musical theater. And he played him perfectly. got the haircut and everything. Not only the haircut, but yeah, he's just a very charismatic, passionate performance from him. Singing, dancing. Like I said, man, did Will Smith really have to sweep this season? Like, at least he got the golden. I think he got the Golden Globe musical or comedy. So there's that, So I guess he was technically second in line, maybe after Benedict, but I think he was awesome in that movie. I don't really know what else to say. Even if you're not into musicals, you can't deny that Andrew Garfield just killed it in Tick, Tick, Boom. Definitely a career-defining performance, for sure. Number 2. Speaking of Benedict, here he is at number 2. Benedict Cumberbatch in The Power of the Dog. Talk about career-defining performances. This guy has always been great, but in this movie, he took the method approach and he didn't bathe for weeks, and he was not talking to any of the members of the cast. In particular, Kirsten Dunst's character. He learned how to do something. He learned how to tie ropes by hand or something like that, and he just completely went in and just became this really nasty, narcissistic person who is a lot more layered than you may think. After watching the movie once or twice, he does have his motivations and his troubled past that kind of makes him into this kind of very, very unlikable person. Just a very deeply troubled character that he just absolutely nailed. Out of all of the performances in my top 10, this would probably be this character has the most depth to him and most layers that you can peel off and pick apart the psyche of this person, and he just nailed it, absolutely nailed it, and he's incredible, but not as incredible as my number 1. And my number 1 is our girl K-Stew, Kristen Stewart, in Spencer.
Congratulations! 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 Congratulations!
I always liked Kristen Stewart. I mean, I'm not a Twilight person. I never seen any of the Twilight films. I don't really care. But in everything else I've seen Kristen Stewart in, she's great. She has been great in everything I've seen her in. I always knew she had something. And then in Spencer, she just completely, she became Princess Diana. I wasn't really that familiar with Princess Diana. I really only knew of her legacy in a way. She was very well loved, and she was kind of the black sheep of the royal family in a way, and she just died tragically, and she was this big figure, and a lot of people are really into her. I wasn't really a part of that, but I knew of her legacy a little bit. So I went into this film kind of knowing that, and that's it. And this film really surprised me with how out it was. It's definitely not your typical biopic. It's really an anti-biopic. It's definitely an experimental kind of art house fable, if you will, on Princess Diana, which is why a lot of Princess Diana heads were not impressed by this film, which led to the film not being recognized for any awards, which is a tragedy. It's a great movie. And Kristen Stewart, I keep wanting to say Kirsten Stewart. Kristen Stewart carries this movie on her shoulders. She is mostly why this movie is so good. It's shot very well. The cinematography and the color grading is very unique for sure. And the other performances are pretty good too, but she is easily the standout. Her mannerisms, her accent, her body language, her makeup, just the way she looks, and the way, she just nails it, dude. Such an amazing performance. And when she was snubbed at the SAG Awards, it left a hole in my heart. So I was very afraid that she would be snubbed for the Oscar, but she got nominated, which is incredible. I really wish she would have pulled through with some kind of late season award, but it just never happened. And I get it, I guess. If Jessica Chastain didn't have to turn into Tammy Faye, Was she the runner-up, dude? Who else would it have been? Oh yeah, Nicole Kidman. Nicole Kidman being, maybe she was the runner-up, but man, come on, being Ricardo, come on. If you haven't seen Spencer, just see it, man. And go into it with an open mind. Don't expect the Princess Diana biopic, because it's not that. It is not that. It challenges you. Be challenged by something, you know? Don't walk in expecting to you be given answers to everything. You know? It's a work of art, dude. Okay, so those are my top 10 performances. So that's my list. I'll probably be doing my favorite scenes of 2021 films, as well as my favorite films of 2021. So a lot of these films that I've talked about are in those lists, spread out. So that's that. Thank you guys for watching. I haven't really done something like this before. It's the first time for me. Hopefully it turned out okay. We'll get to the editing room and slice this mamma jamma up. But in the meantime, Oscar Guy is out.